Renting versus buying a home, always the question of the day. Let's talk about pros and cons. Hi, I'm Patti Handy, a financial coach and mortgage advisor. As a quick reminder, this is for informational and educational purposes only, not any advice. So please seek the advice of an expert that you are working with for further information. So pros and cons of both, and there are pros and cons for both renting and buying a home. So the pros, let's talk about the pros of renting. Flexibility. You can come and go essentially as you wish, as long as you stay to the lease term. You aren't stuck with a mortgage. You aren't stuck with the costs associated with a home. All the repairs, things that come up unexpectedly, that's on the landlord. That's on them to pay for those things. So lots of flexibility for you. And if you're one that you travel for work or that you get relocated for work a lot, renting might make more sense for you. There's going to be typically lower upfront costs. To get into a house, you've got the down payment, you've got closing costs. To get into a home as a renter, you're dealing with typically a security deposit and maybe the first and last month's rent. So there's less of that. Again, you don't have the responsibility of the maintenance, which is potentially a big ticket item. The predictable expenses is nice. You have your rent, which can and will go up over time, but the expenses overall are generally predictable. You don't have the unpredictability of, again, big capital outlays that you have with a home. And there's no property market risk. If market goes down, you don't lose equity, you don't lose value, it's not your problem, it's the landlord's problem. So the cons is, speaking of equity, you're not building any equity. You're helping the owner, the landlord, create wealth because you're paying their mortgage by paying them rent. So you're not creating any wealth building, and you're not building any net worth in terms of your own personal net worth. You have limited control for personalization. They may or may not let you paint the walls, put wallpaper up, do what you want to do to the house. If you have a home, you can't put a pool in. You can't do a lot of these things that you can do if you own a home. So there's some cons with that. Rent increases. You don't know when the landlord's going to come and say your rent's going up and it's going up by this much. You have no control over that. So that's an unknown that you don't like. There's no tax benefits. You can't deduct, taxes and the mortgage like you can on owning a home. So there's no tax advantages to owning or leasing a property or renting a property. You have the risk of displacement. If the landlord comes to you and says, by the way, you got 2 months to live here, I'm selling the house, or I need to move back in, or whatever, you've got to find a place to live, and so you're displaced, and that can be a complete up level of your life, especially if you have kids in school and you've got situations going on, kids in sports, and you're navigating this neighborhood, and suddenly your landlord comes to you and says, okay, you got to be out. So that's some of the negatives of leasing or renting a home. So the pros of buying, obviously one of the biggest ones is that you are building equity as the home values goes up, and real estate is a great diversifier in your portfolio. Having some market, money in the market, having some money in the real estate market, both of those are great diversifiers for your overall financial net worth and financial wealth. So as time goes on, and real estate is a long-term investment, there are the flippers out there, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about owning a home and living in it for long term. Values go up, generally speaking, over time. So you are creating wealth, you're building that net worth with the equity. So as the market goes up, you're creating wealth. So it's a beautiful thing. With your costs, if you buy a house with a 30-year mortgage, what your mortgage payment's going to be. There's no surprises. There's no landlord raising your rent. You've got a stable cost associated with that mortgage payment. Now, your property taxes will most likely go up. Homeowners insurance probably will go up. HOA do sometimes go up. So you've got those things to consider. But the biggest nut, your mortgage, will not change if you have a 30-year mortgage. So that's really nice to know. You have tax benefits. You can deduct your interest on your mortgage, property taxes. You want to speak to your CPA. Make sure that you take advantage of all of those. If you work from home, potentially speak to your CPA. If you work from home, you're able to take some additional deductions of your income taxes. So make sure you speak to your CPA about that. Also, it's nice to have a sense of ownership and control. If you decide you want to put a pool in, if you decide you want to throw up wallpaper, if you want to put a bunch of holes in the walls. No one's telling you can't. You have that freedom to do with, what you want. It's your home. Some of the negatives, upfront costs. You've got to come up with a down payment for the house. Now, in today's world with the mortgages and the options out there, there are lots of programs with, smaller down payment requirements. So speak to a lender, see what you can, qualify for and what kind of programs make sense for you. But you don't need the typical 20% that you hear about. You can get in potentially with as low as 3% down, 3.5% down with FHA. Sometimes lenders come in with a 1% down payment and a subsidy. So there's lots of things to talk about. But you do have to come in with a larger chunk of money versus just your first months of rent and the security deposit. Market risk. So, with anything, we know that the market, come down as the stock market comes down. But again, investing in both the stock market and the real estate market, these are long-term investments. And if you just ride the wave, you love the neighborhood, you love your home, you aren't going anywhere. If the value just goes down on paper, it doesn't really matter to you as long as you have your fixed expenses, you plan on staying there, and this is your home. It's not as big of it hurts to see the values come down. We don't like that, but we know it's going to come back. So just be mindful that you have that piece of it, whereas if you're renting something, you don't have a concern if the market goes down or up. And there's a little bit less flexibility if you want to be relocated a lot for work, or if you don't like the idea of being stuck in one location. When you own a home, you've got to deal with selling it if you are going to just up and leave. So you've got the closing costs of selling, the expenses of selling a home, and all of those aspects. So that is less flexibility than if you were to lease a place. You can just tell them, I'm out of here in a month or 2 months, give them that notice, and then you're free to go. So those are some pros and cons of buying versus selling. Obviously, those are just very high level, very quick overviews. A lot of it's very personal. A lot of it is based on, but if you're married, does a spouse agree with you on the same page? If you've got children, you've got kids in school, there's lots of factors that go into it. But these are quick things to remember. Again, speak to your CPA. Talk about the tax aspects of it. Speak to a financial advisor. I'm happy to help as a financial coach and mortgage advisor. We can talk about both sides, and I can refer you to an expert as needed. So feel free to subscribe, like, and share. Please do that, and reach out to me with any questions. I'm happy to answer them, and we will see you soon. Bye for now.